We apologise for the sonic booms smattered throughout this podcast. Josh was so excited about having his first guest that he took it out on the mic stand. Please enjoy this broadcast.
Welcome back to the Only Tools and Horses podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Hickstead Equestrian, multi-purpose clothing you can rely on. Today's episode we have Annie Rawlins with us in the studio. Annie is a professional dressage rider and horse dealer with prestigious links within the equine industry. We hope you guys enjoy this podcast as much as we did, and let's get right into it.
Your aunt and uncle run probably the biggest auction?
Believe in yourself, but always be open to learning from everyone.
I would never think you'd suffer from self-confidence.
Really badly, and especially in my riding.
Your dad scares the shit out of me.
So Annie Rawlins, welcome to the Only Tools and Horses. Oh, fucked it already from the start. Do you want me to reset now, or should we keep going? Fucking, there we go. Welcome to the second one. This is going so well. Welcome to the Only Tools and Horses podcast. Today we're joined by Annie Rawlins, and welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us, the listeners, a little bit about yourself, your background, who you are.
Probably not that interesting. I have my own yard. I ride and sell horses, compete them, do pretty much the same sort of thing as Josh, but added on is that I sell.
Oh, right. Okay, fair play. I've seen his stand. It's definitely better.
Not as brave as him. Don't do any of the stupid stuff.
I don't know, but I hear we had small time to speak before we started. You sound a lot more braver than Josh. I'll give it.
No, and I've just been around horses forever. My dad rides, trains and competes internationally. My mum's always been around horses, and that's it really. Nothing that exciting.
That sounds pretty exciting to me. So you've grown up around horses, and then it's just your career and hobby, and it is just your full-time thing now.
I tried the whole school thing. I wasn't very good.
No.
I got a U.
You got a U in school?
Ungraded.
That
was really good.
I
Made
think
my
we've
parents
all
so
got
proud.
That's why we can relate on that one.
I think the three of us, there's a bunch of rejects.
In my first year of A-levels, I got an E, a U and a B.
The B was pretty good though. But then
B
at least you made it.
Drama.
I dropped out.
That's the only way I can hold it is drama was my forte. Everything else was terrible. I mean, my history GCSE was write an exam on the Berlin blockade. I did an amazing exam essay on the fall of the Berlin Wall, which turned out I came away. I went home. I was like, history. Thought I flunked that one. I told my mum. I was like, smashed it. My mum was there when it fell. She's got a bit of the rock in the in the loft. And I was like, Mum, I even mentioned you in my essay. I've absolutely smashed it. Yeah, about the wrong complete fucking thing. You.
GCSEs, I felt you could kind of blag it and still be riding, and then last minute cram. A-levels, turns out you have to work a bit harder.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't very good at that.
No.
Do you think the amount of time you have to put into horse riding, did that affect your schooling?
I think it did. It's more like what your priorities are. You know, there's some people who just ride as their hobby, but their priority is getting into uni or this or that. For me, I never really saw another route. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I remember when, I always take the mickey out of my aunt for it, but when I was young, she said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to have my own yard and maybe one day go to the Olympics, but I really want to have my own yard, ride horses. And she said to me, she's the loveliest lady ever, but she said to me, now, darling, is that really realistic? Exactly what I'm doing now, except for the Olympics thing, so I hold it over every time. Don't worry, dream crusher.
So is the
Still
Olympics
going.
off the card for you now? Are you not?
Oh no, I'd definitely like to, but take a hell of a lot more practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely...
Horsepower as well.
For me, that would be end game. That would be...
So end game, Olympics.
Yeah.
So a few more years and we'll see you competing after the Rona stuff. We'll see you up there.
A bit harder than that.
Well, you've got really nice horse at PSG now. Is that your
dad's?
Dad's?
Yeah, he's actually my
horse?
dad's.
Yeah.
My dad bred him, and he's half brother to the one that my dad's competing at Grand Prix at the minute.
Yep.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's really, really cool. I've been a bit obsessed with him since he was 4, but I managed to get my hands on him this year. I competed him as a 6-year-old a bit, and then my dad rode him.
Yep.
So now I've been able to
steal him off him.
So you never know,
Yeah.
but with horses, that's the thing. You can be flying high one minute and then facing the sand the next.
Yeah, exactly. You've got too many horses or not enough. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They either all break or you're all fit. That's the way it is. There's no balance. You don't have like a couple off without work. It's either they're all in work doing really, really well, and then vet. That's how it happens.
I bet that is a nice bill at the end of the year when you got a little vet invoice coming in. It's like
monthly. And when you've got more horses in, and it's just more, even just flu vaccinations and stuff like that, the general stuff is expensive enough. But I think you have to, if you want them to give you everything, you have to give them everything.
No, it's the right way.
But it's just get to the end of the month and you think, oh.
So you say your dad's got horses as well. So is your dad still like competing?
Yeah, so he's on the shortlist for Tokyo.
Right. Okay.
He rides for Ireland. I ride for Ireland as well.
Love that.
They've all been amazing, like the whole Irish team and everything. So yeah, we sometimes clash, me and my dad. We're a bit too alike.
Right.
I've got my opinion, he's got his opinion. But at the end of the day, like every little bit of horsemanship or anything like that, I've got from him. I've learned so much from him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it must be hard as a parent then your kids suddenly turn around and tell you you're doing everything wrong.
No, this is the new way of doing it. We're doing it like
exactly.
this.
I'm going to talk on behalf of the whole equestrian industry. Your dad scares the shit out of me.
Bloody hell. I'm expecting some big, bulky Tom Hardy looking. Like,
Well,
He used to box, didn't he?
yeah.
Yeah, like, honestly.
Grew up in Brixton. He was he did like all amateur boxing and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then his sister got some riding lessons, but went to the riding school and they said, sorry, but you're too little and too weak. So my grandma, who's passed away now, said, oh, go on then. I'm not losing my money. You do it. And then Dad begrudgingly ended up doing them. And the rest is history.
So was it the boxing or the horse riding first?
The boxing. His dad was a boxing trainer.
Oh, wow, okay.
So he... I don't
So
know
he just grew up an Irish fighter. He was ready for anything. So how do you go from boxing to horses? That feels like such a...
I know, it was a bit.
Strange gap.
And he always says I zigged when I should have zagged and I should have gone into show jumping instead of dressage. But he just got the bug. And he was down at the stables the whole time with a good friend of his. And he did actually go to uni. He got into uni to do study veterinary.
Okay.
Veterinary, what's it called? Vet, to be a vet.
Yeah,
There you go.
I don't know.
That's the
Veterinary
uni.
surgeon? Surgeon? I don't know.
Oh my fucking god!
Yeah,
You trained to be a vet. Oh, you've got me. You've passed over the
There
fucking
you go,
idiot dream
see?
to me.
Training to be a vet, got into uni to try and be a vet. That didn't work out that well. And he always says he had way too much fun and didn't do anything. So
good time at uni.
left uni.
That just doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he didn't finish uni, left uni, and then I think he started getting some jobs just riding out eventers and stuff like that, and then ended up in Germany. And then was in Germany for 3 years, and then came back and set up and kept rolling, really.
Wow. So what did he go and do in Germany?
He went and worked for a really big German trainer out there. And he was just there as like the stable hand at first and got more and more riding.
And worked his way up.
Yeah.
Because you followed a very similar path, didn't you? You went over to...
Yeah, when I was 17, after the dreaded A-levels, didn't have my results yet.
Yeah, they're in the past now. We don't need to.
Past.
They're
I
done.
went out to visit my aunt and uncle and I stayed. They have a big sales yard out in Holland. I was meant to be there for 2 weeks. I came back for Hickstead for 1 week. Went back again. Was meant to only be for 2 weeks. Got my A-level results and then stayed for 5 years nearly.
Wow.
And there I just worked up and I had got so much experience, even just with managing a yard and managing a team, and got so many bollockings. So many bollockings. And, the tears. And then now I just think, I look back at myself and think, oh, get a grip.
But it's made you who you are now. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I deserved every single one of them.
Rightly so.
But for a lot of people that don't know, your aunt and uncle run probably the biggest auction?
Yeah, so they run Equine Elite, and that is one of the biggest auctions. It's probably up there with PSI and stuff like that in Holland. And it's mad. We throw like the biggest party. It's not just horses trotting around a ring. It's everyone's there, got their glad rags on, like dressed up to the nines. And most people are pissed before the auction starts, really.
Get them as drunk as possible to spend as much money as possible.
I've been going to the wrong parties. This just sounds. This doesn't sound like anything horse
Last
related
Saturday
to me.
of October every year, and it is the place to go.
Cancelled this year, Persuade?
Yeah, because we were meant to actually have our. So every year we have Wednesday. We have the presentation of all the horses, and then we have a party. We're not meant to drink. We always do. My rules as the yard manager, I'm like, no one's allowed to drink. No one's. And then we get to Wednesday night, and I'm like, sod it. It's been a long day. So that would have been tonight, and then we have more trial days, the Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday is the big old
big
party.
Auction. Oh no, when's the auction? Do you have the
On
parties?
the Saturday.
So you have the parties first and the auction?
Both. So we have on Wednesday we have a presentation of all the horses.
Yeah.
Then a massive party. And then on Saturday we have a presentation in the afternoon. They all go around and have food and champagne and everything.
All
and then the auction
all
starts. Yep, all included in their ticket. And then the auction starts. There's so much drinking all the way through the auction. And then massive party at the end.
Wow. So the whole premise of it is essentially just plough everyone with tequila and champagne until someone just goes, yeah, I'll pay 600 grand for that. Fuck it. I don't care.
Why didn't someone think of it sooner?
I mean, it seems to be working.
Exactly.
I think Josh showed me a little clip of.
I showed him
it's
behind the
really
scenes.
cool.
It's so sick.
There was like little demonstrations going on with like flares.
Oh, good, yeah.
And I was
We
thinking,
have a
I've never
whole-
seen you do this.
Yeah, we have a whole rehearsal night on the Thursday night for everything that's going to happen. So there's always a concept each year, and it's different each year, and it's kept a secret till the night of. And well, this year would have been obvious Halloween.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. But from arriving there, and obviously I'd worked on my dad's yard, and I'd always helped out, and I'd competed a bit internationally just at juniors. My God, was I shocking! I was such a bad rider. They won't have it. Oh my God, I was really bad. And then worked my way up, bought a couple of horses, sold a couple of horses, and then in the end ended up managing it. So every year I go back in October and manage the auction. Well, the yard team.
Right, okay.
They probably think I'm...
That sounds stressful. That sounds very stressful.
It is. I'm probably not the nicest person doing it.
You seem nice, but then again, we're planning for each drink.
exactly.
We're celebrating the auction that should have been tonight at the party.
At least we're doing
and we're drinking
something
today.
to
So
commemorate it.
Here's to you, Corona. Cheers very much.
But yeah. So, and then in 2015, I came back. To be honest, I was a little bit lost for a while. I did have a few times in the 5 years that I was like, oh, do I want to do this? What should I do? I have no idea. And is this for me? Because I suffered loads with self-confidence all the time. I was always thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, or this person's always better, and comparing myself. And then I came back. They were a bit nervous, like, oh, what is she going to do now? And so I came back with a couple of horses and then started selling them, and I haven't really stopped since.
Yeah. Almost found you in a way, didn't it? But that's from you talking about that, that's crazy. From me knowing you, I would say you're definitely the 100% most friendliest person in the industry that I've come across. So for you to say,
even with all the insults,
even so with all the abuse you give me. But so for you, the way you present yourself, I would never think you'd suffer from self-confidence.
oh my God,
yeah,
really badly, and especially in my riding. So I'll always compare myself as to where someone else is in their journey or their life, or
of course.
Like my brother's he bought a house when he was 27, 28. He's a stuntman, crazy, and he's just selling his house and then buying a second house, and I think, oh my God,
I haven't even got around to number one yet, sort of thing.
That's insane. Your brother's a stuntman. I'm still a process. That's not every day someone says, exactly. Yeah, my brother's a stuntman.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah, he
and his
like
girlfriend is as well.
Wow.
So yeah, they're nuts.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. That's insane.
But in a way, it's probably your biggest asset at the same time, which drives you on to continue to get better.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, it's your worst asset.
You have to not let it completely consume you. And I have had it at a point a couple of years ago. I remember sitting at my aunt and uncle's table just in floods of tears. And you look back at it now, and I had no idea why I was upset. I had no idea. I was just completely lost. Yeah. And then I'm a massive believer in, if you want something, even if you're not entirely sure what it is, give yourself a kick up the arse, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just carry on. But you can only do that for so long, and then you kind of hit a brick wall. But then you have to just pick yourself up again. You can't feel sorry for yourself, because what do we have to really to feel sorry for ourselves for? But I've hit a few brick walls.
It all comes down to a mindset, isn't it?
Exactly.
I mean, we've had plenty of conversations where we've hit in business and in personal lives, we've just hit setback and setback and setback, and you do get to that point where you think, well, what's the point in keep on going on? Why am I still on this same route? But that, I look back on those setbacks now, and I don't know if you'll back me on this, especially the ones we've both had. Definitely. Is we go, God, that was such a blessing in disguise, and you just find an alternative, positive route to it. And
and I think it's knowing, like, okay, do I just have to persevere on this route, and I've had a few setbacks, and it's the right route anyway, or do I have to break the cycle and do something else? Like, is it just me hitting my head against a brick wall, or am I being stubborn, or am I also one of my worst traits, being really stubborn? But I think people talk about it a lot, but they don't get down to like the nitty gritty of it. Like I do have it, like girls come into the yard, or guys who they want to be the next Charlotte, or they want to be the next Carl. Okay, but Carl went for 2 weeks work experience with my dad when he was younger, and he ended up building a barn. Like you have to just get on with it, and you can't come in and say, I'm going to ride. No, you stuff up. The horses have to be fed and mucked out first, and then carry on. And it's that grit.
It's that mindset.
Not everyone has.
That mindset is like starting at the bottom and you work your way up. It's no different.
It's like anything, yeah.
Yeah, you've started it. I did the exact same thing. Started at Sharon Edwards, just scream, just work, and then you get your opportunities when you deserve them. And
a lot of people, like, don't get me wrong, I'm so blessed and I'm really lucky with all the opportunities I've had, and I'm really lucky to have support of my family and everything. But what I never used to realise, and I do now, is I got those opportunities, but I did something with them. And I worked for it, and I always was trying new things, and I always thought, okay, well, try and create new opportunities for yourself. Whereas some people think everything's just handed to you
on a plate, of course.
And that it used to really bother me, and now I just think...
Do you think there's a stigma that comes with, because by the sound I know nothing. Half the joke of this whole podcast is that I know nothing about horses and the industry. And by the sounds of it, your dad's quite a big deal by the sounds of it in the industry.
Definitely.
Is there a level that you've got big shoes to fill, and do you think people sometimes look at you and think, oh well, you've only got this opportunity, or you've been able to do that because of the privilege that you've had from that? Like, does that burden carry with you?
So. I don't really see it as a burden, to be honest, because they're probably right. But it's what you do with it.
Yeah.
You know, I've been really, really lucky, but people also don't see the stuff that goes on behind the scenes or anything like that. So I definitely don't see it as a burden. I just think quite a lot of the time, okay, yeah, you're really lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, having such a big family name within the industry, that brings a whole load of pressure that probably people don't understand as well. Like, obviously, your aunt and uncle being who they are, your dad being who they are, it's like, that's a lot of pressure for you to deal with. Yes, you get maybe an extra bit of opportunity, but you've also got 10 times more pressure. I have no one in my family to live up to, you know?
It's also more so, like, for me, was a huge thing breaking free of that, but without, like, being trying to be disrespectful to them. Because I want to stand on my own 2 feet. And don't get me wrong, the amount of times I have to call Craig, my uncle, and be like, oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing, or help me, or this or that. Or, you know, the first few times I sold a horse and someone wanted to bring the horse back, and people get really, really nasty. And then I'm quite like I'm quite an anxious person. Like, I get quite, because I do want to please people, and I want to.
Yeah.
But it's realising, actually, no, wait a minute, this is not my fault. I'll help everyone as much as I can, but wait a minute, I've not done you know, it is quite a lot. And then I'm like, and he's like, wait. Just see if you can help, but don't freak out. It's fine. And like things with my horses, like if I get a naughty one, and I'm crap with, nothing really naughty, but I'm crap with really naughty ones. I'm not that brave. And I'm like, oh, Daddy, help me. And then he's like, oh, yeah, okay.
Just comes out boxing gloves ready.
When I'm confident and when I'm fine, I'm like, what are you talking about? I know what I'm doing. And it must be so frustrating for him. And then I'm like, the other day, I'm like, Dad, I can't really get it on the bit. He's like, okay, all right, I'm coming.
I've learned what a bit is. A bit is the thing that goes in the horse's mouth.
There you go.
The terminology she was using was nothing to do with that, though.
Get his head down.
I'm getting closer.
I feel like you're doing really well.
I'm picking it up slowly. I'm still yet to sit on a horse. Like I know I've sat on a horse.
I feel like
once.
that should be a next video.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to kill him. I don't really have anything sensible enough to put you on.
Oh, I'll definitely have something.
I'll go on the
sensible
Shetland.
enough.
I'm happy with the Shetland. Like that was adorable. I didn't realise he had a Shetland until we started to film a TikTok video for him. And I went out. I was like, "What's in the shed?" He was like, "Oh, a Shetland." And I was like, "What? Like the ones on the adverts?" He was like, "Yeah, there's 2 in there." I was like, "There's 2 Shetlands in the shed." I was like, "I have a spade and shovel, mate." This industry is strange. Yeah, no, it's just normal. Got a Shetland in the shed. I didn't realise how strong it was. It just started like in the most majestic way, running across the garden and trying to stop it.
And you're getting dragged with it. I know. No
Made
chance
for a
of
good
stopping
video
that.
though, didn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
good.
wow. I showed it to a few people. They're like, "What are you doing?" Like, it's adorable. How can you not see that? I mean, how many horses do you own?
So I own a couple myself, and then I have a couple with a few different people. And especially for me, like horses are sent in, I work on them, and then sell them on.
Yeah.
But at the moment at the yard, they're not all mine. They belong to different people. But I've got about 12 in. I normally have between 12 and 17. And then my dad has about 12. We've got a show jumper on the yard. He's got 12 there. And then we have 4 or 5 broodmares and foals and stuff. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So
I'm always one of these people that's like, I have no stables. I'm completely full to the brim. Horses in the fields. And someone's like, "Yeah, I want to send you a horse." I'm like, "Okay, I've got space."
Just give me the horse.
Why did I say that? But
I imagine it's quite like an addiction. So for me, when I started, especially meeting Josh's horses for the first time, like I didn't understand the love of them, but they're so therapeutic. They're so calming to be around.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably get it more on the one-off. Us being around them 24/7, you don't
like they
really.
are amazing. Don't get me wrong.
Well, to be fair, I turn up. I'm like, "Nice pony," and then I'm off, and then he's shoveling shit for the next 3 hours at 6
I
a.m.
don't do that bit. I just ride.
I just ride. I have people do that.
I just ride. Oh, Josh.
I'm not gonna lie. I just ride.
I just ride and gym.
I just ride and go to the gym.
Hitting a stereotype to the T. Absolutely love it.
Me summed up. And maybe a TikTok video now and again.
It's a busy life. It really is. Oh, do you have that same sort of level? Because I speak to Josh and he's up at like 5:30 in the morning shoveling. Is that something you do as well?
So
like...
we all start. We start at 7. But if you've got to be up earlier, then you're out there earlier. And then my dad's got a couple of girls that work for him, and I've got one girl that works for me, Meg. And she's brilliant. Like, she rides as well. She does all the babies, and she's just got a really good attitude. She just wants to crack on, head down, and never complains, even though sometimes she probably wants to punch me.
Goes back to that brave level. You're building them up.
Yeah. Oh, she doesn't. She's got a lot of grit. She's all right. But yeah, then we'll do the stables and then start riding. Kind of the first horse is sort of 8:30.
Wow, so it's a full day. That's one thing I'm learning is that the horses. It's not just that was fun and put it down. Like this is a full big thing,
and it can be like all consuming, but it's also your lifestyle. It can't just be your job. If it's just your job, you're never going to get everything out of it. Like, it has to be part of you.
Yeah.
And I think I was always the one who like couldn't go to parties with their friends because you had to be on the yard at 7. And then you're thinking, don't get me wrong, I had enough parties, I'm fine. But I think later you realise actually
the sacrifices you made were pivotal in your development as a rider. Yeah,
definitely.
Agreed. Like, was in the same situation when I was younger. I did go off the rails a little bit in my late teens, but
I know.
but
I was there sometimes. I know.
But like, when you.
Oh, it was your fault, was it?
Best to say nothing. That's the easiest way.
But like early teens, yeah, of course, all the time you were just making them sacrifices because on the weekends your friends were out doing what they want, but you were competing, or you've got to ride after school and stuff, and those were the sacrifices you had to make too, or working on the weekend and stuff like that.
But it is still like, it's a pretty amazing life that horses give you, and the whole social scene. I mean, sounds really sad. I don't have that many friends outside horses. I don't have that many friends anyway. But like, the amount of people you meet through horses, I never would have met this knob over here if it wasn't for horses.
I'm my fault. I'm the one getting abused all the time. Like, Annie's messaging you.
He's just an easy
more
punching
abuse.
bag.
Well, most of the time, if I send him a message, it's, did you really need to pout?
Yeah, I mean, it's
The
it's the jawline for me.
I'm just getting
yeah,
exposed.
but you know what? That's changed now.
I'm sorry.
A couple of months ago, I was like, all right, fishy.
Every time I just get fish emoji. I'm like, great.
And then all these girls sliding into his, like, sending him messages, and I'm like, all right, fishy.
Do you have any male equestrians sliding into your DMs? Is that like an equestrian thing, maybe?
No,
but they
not
bounce
really.
around.
Most of them are gay. Sorry to stereotype, but a lot of them are.
Like I say, I'm building up on my knowledge in this industry, and I don't think I've met someone that's a little bit like him in this industry. He's a bit
I don't think so.
An outsider.
But I think it's good. Like, you have to be yourself, and I think you have to kind of. It sounds really sad, doesn't it? Like, be your best self and do what's right for you, not just what everyone thinks you should.
Being your best self, just be yourself, even if you're a bit of a shit at times. Just own it. I think.
Did you see how he looked at you then?
Yeah, literally, I know. But to be fair, like we were actually talked a little bit on this last week, and I was just saying in the beginning when I was younger, especially, like I was going to like the ponies and everything. Everyone else was privately educated, turn up in the massive lorries, and there's me in the corner, and I'm like, I just don't fit in the scene at all. Yeah. And I almost felt like I had to put on an act to fit in. And it's only been sort of my early 20s that I was like, you know what? I don't really care if people don't like me because I don't fit the stereotypical male rider. Then I'm not gonna pretend to be someone I'm not. So
why do you think, from your perspective, because I've asked Josh this question, like why do you think there isn't many people that almost not are Josh, but haven't got that more laddie persona in the industry? Is that sort of frowned upon?
I think when you get to know a lot of people, they do.
Yeah.
I think a huge amount of it in our industry is being professional and being, like with Josh, he may say, he comes across as a bit of a lad sometimes, but he's never not professional.
Yeah.
And I think, like, it's the whole thing on Instagram and Facebook. Don't compare yourself to what people put across on that because it's only a fraction of the truth and it's only what they want to show you. So I know loads of people who are let loose and wild and they've got their own, they do this and they do that, who work with horses, but how they present themselves is completely different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who just say what they think you want to hear. I've definitely gotten better at, ciphering that out.
But why is that in your industry? Why is there like almost a criteria? You have to behave like this and you have to say this.
I don't even know if it's just in our industry, but I think a little bit now. People are always nervous to rock the boat. They're nervous to say the wrong thing. Okay, in our industry as well, you're being judged. And it doesn't matter what anyone says, even the most honest judge ever. You ride in and you're smiley and you're nice, or if you've been a cow in the car park, it does influence how they see you. If you've cut them up in the car park and you give them a load of verbal, ride up the centre line, your 8 might suddenly be a 7.
Right.
And they don't mean to be that way, but it's quite... It is a sport judged by humans with not really much disciplinary action for judges. I'm not slating judges.
I've played follow that because I agree with. I feel like
but it is a little bit more like that, and I think people are quite careful not to upset anyone or do something.
Which is why I love your dad so much, because your dad just says it how it is. Like,
that's
he is,
for sure. Sometimes I'm like, you don't help yourself.
But he has definitely been pushing for more technology involved in horses. And again, I definitely, for me personally, to ask a question is, you've worked alongside the auction. You've seen how commercial that is.
Yeah.
Dressage is so outdated. It needs to become more commercial so we can actually get more people interested in the industry.
My dad's always been into go into inner city riding schools and things like that. Don't let them all shut down. That's where he started. There's got to be places for kids who don't have a horsey mum and dad to go, and it's not extortionate, and they can go and they can do things, and then you never know, you might come out of it, or someone like my dad might come out of it. But with my dad, he's always been pushing. He is so passionate about the sport, and he is so passionate about it being fair.
And developing as well.
And developing it. And he's like, dressage is going to die of death if we make it so elitist.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit the problem.
And it's the way it's going. We're at all crossroads, and it's continuing going to that elitist manner.
Well, I feel like linking that elitist manner, going back on what you said about the judges. I mean, again, I know nothing. I've never been to one of these events.
Yeah.
But
they're not that fun.
Yeah, I mean, I've
got show jumping friends. Like,
you let me know when the next one is, and I'll come
I
along.
still haven't come to a dressage show.
I'll stand there with a big placard that says 10 on, and I'll give it away. I don't care if you cut me up in the car park.
That's about it. Sometimes there's a decent burger van.
I just don't see how you can have an elitist mentality at the same time you are, as a judge, put in a position of power when this is not just Sunday League football. This is a hobby and a career that people have invested a shit ton of money into, and a lot of time. They've put their stress and own health on the line for it, and then you're going to get dropped a couple of points because you cut them up potentially, you've not smiled to them. I
don't think any judge sits there and thinks that way, though. I think it is just
human nature.
But if that's their subconscious way of thinking, then there is something bigger. That is the problem. That is just the normal subconscious way of thinking.
I even think like they're guilty of it with me and the kindest judges like in this area. If I go in and you're all smiley and you're happy and you've known, I do think sometimes judges might be in this very small bubble that we're in a little bit more generous to me than they might be of someone else sat on exactly the same horse doing. So as we go up the levels, maybe not so much.
But then it still works in favours with other people. If you're a European rider and you make a mistake, you're probably getting a 5. If you're a British rider, you're probably getting a 3.
Yeah.
And that is where, unfortunately, that is how can you say someone's wrong because it's their opinion.
But
it's so, like, for a sport that is such an elite sport, it's so amateur-esque.
Yeah.
So amateur-esque.
And my dad's trying to get it, he's trying to get in there with a code of points, and he's trying to say, okay, so what about getting judges to use words rather than, there's good, sufficient, and that sort of thing. Say that instead of, because then they might catch themselves like, actually, no, it was very good, so why is it a 6?
Yeah.
It does just that sort of thing, but it's so hard, and I think as well I don't have enough understanding of judging the ins and outs. Like my dad, he's like a freaking encyclopedia.
We've then, like, of course, we've said some criticism towards judges, but they get paid nothing. They get paid.
Oh, so
their
expenses. That's it. So literally. You can't make a career out of being a judge.
No.
Yeah. So they're doing it on the love of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm being educated, so I'm going along and just going from what I hear.
How wrong is that? Like.
Because that on the other side, it doesn't sound fair at all. So who's above the judges? Is it the organisers? Or?
Yeah, British Dressage is our like governing body. There
so we're
are
calling
enough
British
issues.
Dressage out.
Pretty much, yeah.
Here you go. This one is for you. Right, listen up.
There's enough issues, but I do think it's the same. Like there can be so many good people in an organisation. It doesn't mean every single person is, but if it's like at the auction, I always say to everyone who's working there. We all have to have our heads pointing in the same direction, headed the same way, because if there's 3 of you that are pointing left, 4 of you that are pointing right, and I'm going that way, and one's going backwards,
it's going to be a disaster.
It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit that, and it's how do you change something that's been in one way for so long? But it's so easy to say all the negative points, but there are also some really good points.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get caught up in all the... But
I think when it affects you personally, it's easier to be like, but this is wrong and this is wrong.
Yeah.
And if you know there's change, I mean, what would you change? How would you change it? How would you go about implementing a new foundation to the whole industry?
I think at first you have to look at how the judges are being trained, who they're being trained by, and open it up to some more riders and trainers and have some more trainers that are going to be judges. Yeah. And do try and get them to judge in the judge training with words rather than...
It needs to be more attractive.
Numbers.
I don't know about you, but I've done a little bit, but there's no
I have no desire to judge in the
want,
slightest at all.
And
it's just, to me, worst thing I'd ever want to do.
Yeah, I heard the money's shit.
But I think as well, so in Holland you go to a show and it's in a field on grass, the lower levels. So like prelim up to medium would probably be all on grass at some shows in the summer. But they've got a tent there and they've got benches there, and it's made a little bit more of an occasion. And I know you can't do it now with Corona and everything, but it's kind of, you turn up, you do your test and you leave, and it's all very segregated. You know, there's not so much inclusion, and that's why I do think like the BD camp, youth camps and stuff, they are really, really good getting kids to go up the levels. But then what happens when
you turn senior? I'm sure you experienced it. You go from doing all these things with young riders to now, okay, you were once probably a big fish in quite a small pond. Now you're a very, very small fish in a massive pond, and you have no real direction where you're going, and all that support that was once there for you is just evaporated and gone, and you have no idea what you're doing pretty much.
And I do think as well, in the Pony Juniors Young Riders, that needs to be looked at as well, how they're doing it, because a lot of it is about how they're holding people back, what you're not allowed to do. And it needs to be, people need to be encouraged. And I think older riders need to engage with people a little bit more, because I'm not saying, there are people who do, and that's amazing. You know, I've met some incredible people like Rebecca and Gareth Hughes and Louise Bell, and there's so many people who have been amazing to me. And you know, a load of people that I could call if I need support. But what about the people who haven't got all the money, or they haven't, you know, like the apprenticeship schemes, they're kind of not, they've not really become that appealing to an employer to get someone to come and they can be in your yard. But I just think it all needs to be a little bit more open, and so that people can meet like top riders, or even someone, kids will get more out of a rider who's riding at slightly lower level, who's not been to the Olympics, but that
engages.
Will engage with them, than someone who's been to the Olympics but couldn't really give a stuff. And even, you know, like mentoring and that sort of stuff, I do think would be really, really good. I'm not slating everything that they do, but it's just like young riders. It gives us more when I rode for Britain, we were waiting for like Irish passport and stuff. I rode for GB when I was a lot younger. I have never felt so insignificant at one of their selection days, and I was just literally, I was palmed off for them. Crazy. And it sounds really bad, but it feels like I'd got up at 5, I'd ridden the day before after school, and I'm sure there's loads of people who do. I was so excited about it. I got there with my horse. I was trying my best. My mum took me. No one else was around. They didn't even give me the time of day to say goodbye. Literally, they're, oh yeah. And then someone with an awful lot of money and a big horse and a big lorry comes up, and you can't. That may not have been the case, but you can't help but feel
that way.
That you're dismissed. Like, everyone should have the time, even if you've trotted around with your horse's head in the air and it was awful. Give them the time.
Because look, it's stuck with you now, and we're talking 10 years later.
Yeah, and I'm not bitter.
No, of course.
No, I feel like.
But it's not. You don't feel like anyone's got your back.
No, exactly.
It's that same mentality, isn't it? As treat everyone the same going up the ladder, because you'll fucking see them on the way down. Mm-hmm. And I've been in situations, which I'm sure we'll probably get into at some point, where that has happened, and those people won't understand that until they're going down the ladder. But while you're climbing it, that must be so difficult for you to come away like that's.
I mean, I was a kid, like it's not,
but that's
and it's
still
not a big
stuck
deal.
To you today. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is one of those fragments that has been placed on you, that has built you to who you are. And I'm looking at a very strong woman who's managed to go through a very difficult career to get to how successful you are today through these moments.
To go, that's for sure.
But that's great, because you know that there is so much further to go. Like, and that has all been instilled from you from some of these negative points, which hopefully they can get changed.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, I don't even know how to explain it really, because I don't want to sound like I'm slagging everyone off, not at all. But when my parents never pushed me to ride for Ireland. It was always an option. I had a GB passport, but then had my Irish passport, and it was always my intention to ride for Ireland. It wasn't, but when my dad made the change over, I That sounded a bit dodgy, didn't it? Still a man.
He made the change
Not
over.
a man, still a man.
Nothing wrong if he wanted to make the change.
Exactly.
It might make him more comfortable. I don't know. I've not sat on a horse.
But when he moved over to Ireland, there was never any pressure for me to do it. I never had to. And I remember coming back from that. God, I must have been 14 or something. And I said to him, no chance I want to do that again. Never, ever again. And like my mum later, I'd heard like her opinions of it, but she never pushed them on me. You know, I really wasn't. I was just dismissed.
Yeah.
And for a kid who was like so excited, even now, them choosing all their matchy outfits, like so much goes into it.
Of course.
For them to present it, and then you kind of.
But again, isn't that a massive problem that it's such about the short term rather than ride development?
Once you're there, they start paying attention to you, but you don't need them when you're there. No. You need them on the way up, or like you say, when you're coming down.
Yeah.
It's that support system that you need in place to then thrive, to be at your peak the whole time and continue growing and improving. Or when you drop back down, you've got a support system to bring you back up.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it's always about here and now, especially at ponies, juniors and young riders, and it's all about the combination, probably the best horse, not necessarily the best riders. And that's a massive problem.
And okay, I'm sure there are battles that the people who are having to deal with, who are in that system, they're having to deal with as well. I'm sure they have the best intentions. I'm sure not all of them are thinking, I'm sure that's just generally not really how people think. No. Some people do, but you don't come across somebody who wakes up in the morning and thinks, I don't care. You know, not that often. But I just think, like, I know people go on and on about mental health quite a lot, and it is a huge thing, but it's more that giving people tools when they're younger to deal with nerves, to deal with stress, but it's not so much. So I don't generally get nervous going into the ring. Doesn't really, if anything, I could probably do it being a bit more focused, but it's beforehand when you're trying to juggle 100 different things and you think, right, okay, so I've got someone calling me now who's not happy about this or that. Then I've got to sort out the girls, okay, and I need to sort the horses out, and I've got about 6 to ride before I go in the morning, but I've got clients today, I come back. And it's brilliant, don't get me wrong, like, I love what I do, but then to then be able to get on the horse and focus, and I think it's dealing an awful lot of the time with everything going on around it, and even for, like, teenagers and stuff, like, there's a lot actually going on. I think that could be focused on a little bit more to give people tools before it's all well and good picking someone up when they're in a heap on the floor, but help them try not to get there.
I feel like by the sounds of it, there's a lot of mental health issues that come from taking this as a career path, and it's kind of not talked about and also talked about. And I think
mental health talks about so much more now anyway.
I mean, definitely in society, regardless. I mean, there is there a level that, because it's talked about and people feel more comfortable talking about it, especially in this industry.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that puts people off from different backgrounds from joining or going down this path?
I don't think so. I just think you see an awful lot more of people taking this path whose parents have. You know, like my dad, his dad was a boxer. He had a gym right until the day he died. You know, like, it wasn't their path. I got into this. Would I have done this had I not had the exposure to it when I was younger? I don't know. I can't imagine doing anything else. But I don't know. I don't think anyone's put off because of it, because I don't think anyone believes it. I think everyone is like, it's not going to happen to me. Oh, stop whinging. Stop. Like, it's,
the big depression hits when you're shoveling shit at 6:30 in the morning. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, see, that doesn't bother me. For me, so I've sat on the couch in the evening, nothing to do. If I'm really, really stressed out, like, it won't affect me as much as long as I'm busy, I feel fine. As long as I'm busy, doesn't mean you're putting 110% into everything.
Yeah. No.
And you don't realise that till later. When you're sat on the couch and you've got, in my head, like I'll say to a friend of mine who I used to work with, I'm like, I didn't make myself too tired enough today, I'm still stressing. And I'm not, and that is a little bit, like, that's the telltale signs of it. But I think some people are cut out for it and some people aren't. But the industry is also so diverse. There's so many different ways. We both work in the same industry, but his job's different to mine. But then they're also the same. Right. We both get up in the morning and ride horses all day.
Yeah.
but we're also involved in it in different ways.
Exactly. It's almost like different branches.
Like you're suddenly involved in this industry and you're a firefighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
it's
so
strange.
diverse. There's so many different ways.
It's so diverse in some ways and so open in some ways, yet it's so backwards and closed in other ways. And that is, it's so hard to explain to people when talking about the industry, because you're like, it's brilliant with some aspects. I meet people from all different walks of life, from certain jobs that you've never come across. But then I'm like, yes, but they're all from quite an elite background. You don't see many people coming from like working class families because it's become very difficult. And again, I think going back to what you were saying about like the anxiety and everything, so much now I've realised has stemmed from everything that happened to me when I was competing when I was younger. All events that happened between the ages of 12 to 16 maybe, and now have caused me to have problems now with dealing with pressure or stress or anything. Even,
it sounds like you don't want to say it, but like sometimes I feel slight chip on your shoulder about certain things. And then I think, oh, that's happened because at some point you're the only one who's got the control of how to deal with a situation and how it affects you. And I think once you've realised that, then it's fine. But it's all well and good saying that, but actually
to do it, it's so much harder.
So different. And especially I think now with COVID, like it's affecting a lot of people. But horse people are like, we're fine. We still get to go out. We still get to do our job. We get to do this. We get to do that. And we're really lucky. But I think now people are starting to feel like the knock-on effect.
But it's such an isolated industry. Like, you'll be at your yard, every day? Yeah. You won't get out of your yard. You won't see other people.
You can easily not get in the car for 3 days.
Exactly. So, like, the only person that I come across is my owners and people that work for me.
Yeah.
Other than going to the gym and everything.
I see him every day.
Yeah.
I try not to, but I see him every day.
But that is, like, there was months...
Attached to you.
I know. We might as well just have
we come as a pair.
We do. We're an anti-deck duo at this point.
But, like, when you're not competing, you get so stuck in your bubble and it becomes so hard because you're facing your own struggles and everything and you do feel so isolated.
Yeah.
That's a massive thing that I've struggled with. Whereas then you compare it to my aunt, who's a 3-star event rider based out in America. They've got massive barns and you'll have about 15 professionals on one yard.
Yeah.
And you're like, how much easier is that having just that surrounding of people to like work with and work alongside? It must be so much easier because...
But then also, what if there's clashes? You know,
yeah,
like, it goes two ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just think as well, I've always been, so I'm in Holland like every month, or I'm in Belgium, or I'm here, or
break the mic.
Just break everything, getting a bit into it.
Taking out the box.
So,
There you go. Give
I've
the
got
combo.
his hands.
Oh yeah, I can see the hairy knuckles. They're all coming out. They're not bad. Josh has shaved his legs, so you've got hairy knuckles.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
saying that, how do girls do this ride? My legs are battered and bruised.
He came into the gym, right?
You actually have shaved your legs. Oh dear God.
He came into the gym and he went...
Are you going cycling now?
He just avoids the chafing. He's just constant like, talc and powder everywhere. He's like, I've done something. What have you done? I've shaved my legs. I was like, why have you shaved your legs? I look bigger. I was like, I'm not going to lie, you look the same. You just you look better if you was to go down a slip and slide. That's the only difference it made.
I do have the funniest story with that. Again, I've tried to do this previously and I was like, it can't be difficult to wax your own legs. So I bought my own waxing kit and was like,
was it the Veep one?
No. It was like a waxing kit. You like heated it up and everything. And I was like, I had no idea re-waxing everything. So I've literally started right in the corner of my leg, put on about 3 times too much wax, got a waxing strip, done it the first time, 74 strips later, I'm crying on the floor.
Wait.
And my mum is doing it for me. It's black and bruised. Oh, it was so bad.
Did you not do a test patch? Did you just go for the full... Did
you
put
your
it all
leg?
in? And
No, I just started right there, in the corner of my leg. Right in the corner of my leg.
But you put too thick?
Yeah, I put because obviously you just
So
put a
basically
small layer.
Josh was waxing his groin.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got his goat chat and gone, Mum, we've eat this for me. Let's just get that off.
Can you give me a hand? And it didn't work out that well.
So you went, actually, I'll go for the most painfulest part first.
Yep.
Test that. See if I can man that.
Yeah.
Then decided to continue for 47
I
strips
thought,
later.
start at the top, work my way down. That was my inside my head. Start at the top, work yourself way down. Easy, have it. Can't be difficult.
Mate,
girls go get it done all the time.
you started on your leg.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, did you not think it through? What if you flunked out of the pain halfway down your calf?
See, don't think about things like that. I just think, just get it done. So I started there, and like 74 strips it took, and I was crying. Literally, and I had bruise there for months.
Do you know what? I've heard that motto from so. Just don't think about that. Just don't think about it. What's the consequence of that?
A bruise for months.
Bloody hell! I don't even know where it was. It's a really deep chat. And somehow we got to waxing.
Yeah, waxing. Josh is waxing.
You told us a good story though earlier about how you guys met. So for the listeners, this was an interesting.
I didn't even remember this, and then I was like, oh yeah, I did that.
So Annie will tell us about. How did you meet Josh?
We have met before though, just to clear this up. We haven't met in a competition.
So we kind of met at competitions, and I don't even really know how we became friends, but obviously it was best day of Josh's life.
Yeah, of course.
But we kind of knew each other via, and then like in warm-ups and stuff, just say, all right, how's it going? It's Josh just flying that way, flying this way. And
nice jumpers.
Then apparently, this is someone's version of the story.
No, it's deadly
we
true.
were at a show.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm listening to the truth.
Josh had been sat on a bench or something. He stood up.
No, it was literally at Hickstead, right? The coffee shop. I'm sat on one of them, like, the plastic chairs they have outside, yeah? That's it. So I've sat down and you've walked past. And then,
And apparently there was this girl that Josh really fancied sat in front of him. And he was like about to make the move. And I went, Josh, have you shit yourself? Because he had a brown patch all over his bum. Little did I know the girl he fancied was in front of him.
Did she clock it?
Oh, mate, it's embarrassing.
Then he had to turn around and walk away.
I can't call her out.
Do you know exactly who it is?
Yeah, I know who it is.
Do you follow her?
No.
Does she follow you?
I don't think so.
Tell me afterwards. I say it's perfect.
And then he had to turn around and walk away from this girl with the brown patch on his bum.
Oh, it was awful. That was genuinely one of the worst experiences of my life.
You got a bit frightened.
It seems like a recurring theme. I've seen him walk out of the gym nearly shit themselves. So
there you go.
Maybe it's just a Josh thing. You mentioned in that slight detour, Hickstead. We've briefly spoke about Hickstead and coming back to it now. I have been drip fed information. I obviously don't want to know too much because then we don't talk. And I'm like, so please tell us about that. However, I have been drip fed and correct me if I don't say this wrong, dressage at Hickstead isn't a thing anymore.
No, it is no more. My dad organised it, and just funding and support. We had zero support over the years from certain people. And my dad, he did it for, I think it was 27 years. Did it for a really long time. Had an amazing time. It just had run its course, and my mum and dad were putting money in every year to try and pay bills and make sure everyone got their money. And it just, in the end, we couldn't do it anymore. So,
but that is so bad in a professional sport that our best venue in the south.
So is that regarded as the
probably in the south, definitely our best venue in the south.
I mean, you could like 2 arenas running all day and stuff like that. So yeah,
it's unheard of.
And having the main Premier Leagues here and having internationals and things.
We're not talking about football, are we?
No.
Okay, Premier League.
Premier League type of competition. Like we have high profile Premier League. Yeah.
And that's where you qualify for the internationals.
Yeah.
Premier League in horses. Now that would be a sport, I'd say. You said that, and my mind just detoured. I was like,
football.
What are you going on about? That makes no sense.
Football probably makes more sense.
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, has that been addressed? Like, do people, are they in the dark? Why they don't know? Because it sounds like...
No, I think we've been pretty open about it. We've been very open over the years about lack of funding and that sort of thing. Very expensive to put on and doesn't bring up an awful lot of money. Show jumping is more of an exciting sport, so it gets more sponsors and more viewing time and all that sort of thing. Also, so a dressage test, depending on the test, say it's 5 minutes long, 5-6 minutes long, you can only fit so many of them into an hour, whereas show jumping, 60 to 80 seconds and they're in and out. It is... even just a daily show, they'll learn an awful lot more.
Yeah,
right.
The only thing I do think is a real shame for my dad, British Dressage did not do one press release about Hickstead. No, which maybe they've done it somewhere and we've missed it or whatever, but I just think it was really hard for him to finally say, no, we're not going to do it anymore.
That's been his life, really. It's been his life.
And all for the passion. Everyone thinks he was earning a shed load of money out of it. Yeah. He was losing private, personal money
to try and keep it running.
To try and keep it going.
And provide for the sport.
He didn't earn any money out of it.
Not
Nothing.
even a thank you from British Dressage.
So that's
to be fair, the head, Jason Bratigan, did ring him and say, you know, I'm really, really sorry. That was...
Okay, that's nice, but even so, that is...
After the fact.
That is embarrassing on behalf of our sport, that probably one of the longest serving venues has gone under, and they've not done a proper thank you in the correct manner.
But, you know, it is what it is, and I think you can be upset about it, but there's also an awful lot of good people who are very good at their job who do work at British Dressage.
Of course, absolutely.
You know, you can't...
No, of course. I can't put them all under one bracket.
Exactly. I think it's a little bit more the whole, like, institution.
Yeah, it's the organisation, isn't it?
Actually
functioning.
One person.
No.
It's the function and the rules and regulations, that sort of thing. It's just a bit that... I mean... I go to shows and I meet so many such like lovely show organisers who will always be helpful and help you at the last minute. And you know, we lost Oldham Craig, we nearly lost Belmedine, but now that's still going.
Thankfully, managed to keep that.
But I think where else could we go in the winter? You know, Brendan only runs from March onwards, so it's
Merris Wood. It's very difficult. They can only
Merris Wood's only running up to medium.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
I think,
because again, that's the problem. If you're wanting to do anything above advanced medium now, you haven't got anything in the south, which is shocking, really.
It is really, really hard.
But then,
okay. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what, Merrin Wood.
Sorry, when we get you on a horse going to do your prelim.
Oh, mate, again, somehow Round Robin's always back to putting me on a horse, and I don't think anyone wants to see that. That'd just be a nightmare. But I mean, listening to you speak about it, I understand when you say dressage is dying. It's very difficult from my perspective to say, but why is it dying? And then I speak to different people, and it's kind of now my job to try and figure that out. It's the piece of the puzzle is slowly coming together. That it's dying because these venues are not being funded correctly.
We're going backwards in the venues.
And it's becoming more and isolated and elitist all the time and pushing away more and more people, and we need to open it up.
It's not accessible, is it?
No,
it's
exactly.
Quite tricky.
That's the problem.
Well, hopefully by having this conversation we can change some of that, maybe. I mean, do you think that potentially there's the potential it can come back?
Yeah, and I do think if people can, you know, there are a lot of people who want to run shows and it's getting the approval and that sort of thing and being able to do it, and it's very time consuming, but I think as well it's up to us not to just slag everything off, but you know, it's all very well.
You've got to hold it accountable as well, though.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but it's all very well coming with problems, but if you don't come with any solutions, then all you're doing is being negative and dragging everyone down.
Of course.
Annie, welcome to the boardroom.
But this is again where a lot of the concepts that me and Ash are trying to do is try and open this up and be a bit more. We've got to expand it. We've got to expand this industry. Otherwise, dressage will die. Who at the end of the day,
we won't have a job.
It won't be an Olympic sport soon. It won't be an Olympic sport soon.
Is the thing
because it's boring. It's boring.
If I want to go to the Olympics, then
yeah, exactly. It's boring.
Yeah. I mean, we have conversations, just things we can do, and like we're planning to film a documentary and following it with Half Step and the podcast and stuff like that. Even just to and it's rounding
exposure, isn't it,
to everything we've sort of discussed, down to kids from poorer backgrounds, people that from council estates you would not expect to see in the stables. Maybe we can sponsor them. How can we get them on a horse? How can we do this? Maybe it's stuff like Hickstead. How can we help into that? And we appreciate it. Doesn't affect me because it's not my career. Josh is one of the bravest lads that I know, that he is willing to risk his career and his reputation to call out shit for the positive change for the younger generation.
People won't be saying about Annie Rawlins in 20 years that we're going to Josh Hill.
But this is the thing.
I learned from the best. From the best.
But that's the thing. Like, my dad has never actually cared about the repercussions for him. You know, that's what's so hard. It's like he's competing alongside it as well. But yeah, he's never been worried about being the one to stand up.
Exactly. But
I want to buy him a pint. He sounds like my type of loser.
A lot of what happens is not acceptable in everyday life, yet in the horse industry, it's deemed acceptable. And that's what bothers me so much. So much. It's like living our day-to-day life, and then I go back to work and that's normal. But why is that normal? That shouldn't be acceptable. Like, why is it that... the way things are, it just...
I agree with you to a point, but then I do also think the horse industry is such I want want to say special. I don't know. It's such a different type. It takes a different type of person to make it in that industry.
Agreed.
And you can't run it like it's Tesco's or Sainsbury's or anything like that. You can't, but you do need to be able to make it a little bit more business.
Yeah, and it's even things like me. I've suffered a lot of concussion injuries, but
can you tell?
That's why I keep repeating myself all the time. But basically, like, there's no teaching for that. There's no, like, British dressage don't do anything about falls or actually teach people.
That's so funny you said that, because my dad and a friend of his who Greg Powell, he's a stunt coordinator, and they grew up together, went to Dulwich Riding School, and they keep saying about having a sneaky drink over there.
You just keep talking, I'll just keep on drinking.
And he said about teaching people to fall, there should be falling clinics, because a really awesome little girl who started training with me, she's 12, Crystal, she went out to her first BD competition last week on Thursday, and she got 77%.
Well done.
And she was
Fantastic.
really like...
Yes, well done to you.
She was like, what? She didn't at all, not cocky in the slightest. She's so lovely. 2 days later, she was eating sand in the school. And I was like, oh,
that's a full
God.
Grace, isn't it?
And Dad was in there.
For a second, I thought she was just like, she went from Miss
No,
Harlow, she
she's
was just
not
sitting there
big,
eating
no.
sand. I was going,
No, she
promising
fell
career.
off, and he properly planted her. It was just he got a fright, and because she's young and doesn't have a massive seat or anything, and it went further than it should have, she just got straight back up, and I'm like, are you all right? Thinking, oh God. And my dad's there like, was this my fault? But I think it wasn't. And
Dame Rawlins, proper hard man, get back on the fucking horse, ride it.
And then she's like, yeah, I'm fine. The horse cantered around for another 10 minutes before we could catch him. And she's got straight back up, didn't minge, didn't moan. And I just think, actually...
She probably shouldn't have got back on.
Well, no, she was fine to get...
Right.
Oh, see, I'm a big old... Get back on even if you're grabbing yourself, if you're safe. But my dad said as well, that's the age you should be teaching them on the bucking Broncos and stuff, on the remote control ones, to fall properly, because then they don't lose their nerve as much.
No.
I lost my nerve big time when I was younger. I'm not the bravest rider in the world at all. I know what horses I can ride, and I know what horses I can't.
Yeah.
I still get on the horses I can't, and then I'm like, oh, that was stupid. Someone else is way better at this than me.
Yeah.
But he said exactly the same thing as you said. You need to be teaching people to fall, and then what to do about falls, and then accidents are going to be less and less.
Exactly.
Sometimes you
and
know,
less
you get
severe,
stuck,
but
you do this.
like you think about like rugby and football, the NFL, the protocols in place when someone has a severe like
knock or
concussion, like tackling each other or what
and all
have you.
we think is, am I going to be able to afford the bills next month to be able to feed the horses?
Exactly.
You say that with the NFL, for example. I don't know that much about the NFL other than Philly Eagles. But I watched the film on it once, and they had an issue where they consistently got concussions, and there's people going to be watching this, me, and like, this is like one of the biggest stories ever. But there's like stories of NFL players beating their wives, killing their wives.
Do you know
Aaron Hernandez? That's what I'm thinking of.
End up killing his
whole family or some shit like that. But it's like,
but
the NFL denied that. They were like, no, it's absolutely fine. Like, just get back on the horse and just keep fucking doing it. It's like, no, you can't do that.
Have you guys seen on Netflix the F1 series Drive to Survive?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you should watch it. You definitely should watch it. It's so like dressage. It's so political. It's unbelievable. Like the teams and stuff like that. You'll really relate to it. But that was amazing as well. That was really, really cool. And I watched loads of documentaries on different sports, like the Michael Jordan one. And
that was amazing.
That
was so good.
His mindset is just different.
Yeah.
He's different gravy.
Yeah, literally.
He's different gravy.
But again, like me and I've always said to Ash is, if you want to like find something about basketball, the Michael Jordan documentary, the F1, like you're talking there. But again, for us in this industry, what can you watch to actually talk hear or go, oh, I can relate to that. Oh, it's not just me, or okay, they did this in this situation.
Yeah.
But my lights just went. I went. Colin's like, Charles, we'll do a Netflix doc, and we'll do that and that style for dressage. I don't know how that'll look.
There'll be a lot of outtakes.
Yeah, literally.
There'll be a lot of things that won't even make the outtakes. I'll tell you that now.
Most of the time, just probably falling off.
Yeah,
I've seen videos of it falling off, and they're like, I think that I would not even.
But
do
I
that.
do think it is a little bit as well. People who are willing to be open and it's being vulnerable, isn't it? Because it's so hard. It's such a fine line between being honest about how you're feeling, but then talking about it so much that you drag yourself down.
Of course, and being professional at the same time, because it is our job. It is such a fine line. But again, I guess you compare it to like another athlete. Like, they've got their team behind the scenes that they can really be open with, whereas our team behind the sines, you can't really. They either work for us or our clients. So you can't open up to them. You don't really have it. We have trainers in the industry, but you don't really. They're doing their own thing. You don't really have that mentorship that you need, and a lot of people have. Like, a boxer will be the whole time with his trainer, so that trainer will know him inside out, whereas you have a 45-minute lesson with your trainer, so you can't have that interaction and go, right, this happened, and they can see the way you react to certain situations, the way you need to push you in that direction. So that's where I was talking about earlier about it being isolated, is you don't really have that mentorship that you like really, I feel, is needed in this industry more than everything else.
Like, anyone I train with, I have to really feel like they're in my corner, because otherwise I just get a bit lost and I get a bit. And it was really funny. A while ago, I was at a show with a horse that I'd been struggling with quite a bit on and off, and I just lost all my confidence on him. And I just thought, and he was an incredible horse. I kept thinking, oh my God. And I got there and I said, I saw Sarah Millis, and I said to her, she's like, oh, you're right. I said, I'm not too sure how this is going to go. I said, because so-and-so said, oh, what are you doing and why are you doing this? And I just started to really doubt myself. She said to me, just believe in yourself a little bit and ride him exactly how you want to ride him. And then in the warm, and she didn't need to say anything to me. Like, she could have just gone, oh yeah, we've all had that. And then when I was warming up, she said a few things to me, and she didn't need to go out of her way to be kind.
Yeah. But doing that boosted your morale. Yeah.
And then my dad was there. He's like, "You're all right," and I'm like, "Why?" But then that's when, like, he'll turn up when I'm like, I have no idea how this is going to go. I don't even know if I can get around the ring. And then he was like, it looked fantastic, except for that bit where you reverse into the flower pots and knocked out with the whiteboards. Other than that, great job. And then he's laughing at me as I'm going around the test, but like with you, like
in a supportive way.
Yeah, and I just think as well, you can't be serious all the time. But it was just that really, really stuck out to me as another rider taking themselves out of their like focus, out of their bubble, and being kind to someone. I just think it goes a long way. No, especially when it's a rider you look up to.
I think that's the moral of everything we've spoken about. It's just being a nice person. Just bring it down to it.
And all of us have bad days. Like, don't get me wrong.
That's normal. That's normal. But it's those. I think that's where your true test of character is when you are at your lowest. You're not defined when you're at your best. You are defined when you're at your lowest.
Yeah.
And it's how you, 1, pick yourself up, 2, how you treat the others around you, and 3, how you can be humble within yourself. And that is the main principles that we...
That's life, though. Main principles of life, isn't it?
Not
just what
and you need to implement that into everything you do. It's been an amazing conversation.
Exactly.
We've gone on for
I think definitely we need to have to do a part 2. We definitely need to do a part 2.
Honestly, if you want, we'd love
to have you back.
Ramble on for
there's so many
things.
I've been trying to go through all the questions we've got, and like, have we hit that? I've got so much more to branch onto it. The way I sort of ended it last week with Josh, I'm going to chuck it back in because I thought it was a nice way to do it.
Definitely.
There's hopefully people are actually going to listen to this. If they don't, then we've just had a nice chat.
Yeah, exactly.
But if there are younger
and no part 2.
No part 2. But if there are younger listeners, what would you say as a word of advice for all the struggles you've talked about that you could give to them that is really going to spur them on in their career and hobby?
I think believe in yourself, but always be open to learning from everyone. If don't go around bopping and having lessons from 6 different people in a week, because you'll lose your way. But I think believe in yourself, decide what you want to do, and if you're not okay, tell someone, have a chat with them, but don't let the bad days define you. You've got to crack on and push on. There's going to be more tough days than there are fantastic days, but the fantastic days are worth it. So
love that.
Crack on. Give
Love
yourself
that.
a
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so
we
much.
We need to
having
come
me.
for one of these the show parties. Mate, I'm gonna buy Dane a drink. I want an invite to these. These sound insane. That would just be a highlight. We'll just go record me like Ashley's reaction to what goes on.
Behind the scenes
fire
of the
and horses
auction
and
next
champagne.
Yeah, the auction,
That'd be amazing.
definitely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Do a
Guys,
party
thank you
soon.
for listening. Half Step Equestrian, we're launching November. Promo's coming out soon. Annie, once again, thank you. All of the socials.
you,
Annie's
guys.
socials will be put in whichever links will be there, and as will ours and all the companies ones.
Fantastic.
So, love to everyone that's listening, and Annie, again, thank you very much.
Only Tools and Horses out.
There we go.